guys. Welcome to this week's Good Work Show. We got a good one for you. We're going to have one of our producers freestyle.
We are.
He doesn't even know it.
Right.
He's going to edit himself out later.
And we don't know which producer it's going to be.
That's right.
Be
I didn't even say it was going to be you, Sam.
Right. Could be the other one. He would. That's the best part.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but that's not why this show is great.
You guys have to come on the show at some point because we keep talking to you, but no one can see you or hear you. And so you have to come on. like Wilson or Wizard Kelly. Wizard Kelly talks a lot. He is in shots. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but all of those things are not necessarily why this is a great show.
None of those things are probably the reason why it's a great show today. I mean, not Dale and Sam, but
no, they're always great.
Sure, but we have great nonprofits who are going to be on the show, and so we're going to start it off learning about the Atlanta Land Trust and the organization, what it does, and what it's doing to help affordability for homeowners along the Beltline. So. Super interesting. There's been a lot of discussion around affordability, particularly for housing around the Beltline, though, because there's a lot of great property around the Beltline. But if you have $1 million to invest in that property, you could probably live there. But the Atlanta Land Trust is doing something very unique to give opportunities for homeowners to live there who may not otherwise be able to do that and protecting the space. So we're excited. We're going to have the executive director, Amanda Reen, to come on and talk to us all about that.
Yeah, and then similarly, we're going to hear from Martina Edwards. She's the Chief of Strategic Partnerships for Access for Capital for Entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. So in this organization is working on giving access to dollars to people who want to start a business, grow their business, who may not be able to I guess historically may have had challenges going through traditional methods of getting funding. Mm-hmm. So kind of similar, not similar, but, kind of providing access, whether it's access to affordable housing, access to dollars for businesses, all of these things, both of these organizations are kind of speaking to some issues facing our community.
It's wealth building in two different ways.
Yeah. So, and as our communities are changing, and the makeup of the communities are changing. So I always grew up like in a suburb of a town and it was just houses and like an elementary school in the corner. So we didn't have like corner stores. However, when we would go visit my grandmother in St. Augustine, kind of like how you talked about your dad had the guy on the corner, there was a lady.
Wait a minute. What guy did my dad have on the corner?
The guy who used to sell the candy.
He didn't sell that candy. He gave that candy away.
Well, we had
so he had a corner store, food corner market around from his house. But his friend, lived in the house by his friend down the street, who was the candy man, and the candy man gave out the candy.
Oh, well,
everybody has a candy man or candy lady in their
we had the freeze cup lady, and she would sell freeze cups for $0.25.
Yeah, no,
and
we just got the candy from...
No, nobody gave it away to our neighborhood.
Big T would give us... His name was Big T. He was also a caterer, and he was just like... But, back in the day, you had names. You had the neighborhood. Like, everybody had a nickname on the block.
Well, there was a lady who had that... She was probably in the best place. She had the house across the street from my church growing up.
Okay.
So when kids would get... your parents would... Parents would send you to Sunday school,
and you put that money in the candy.
Well, if
and
your
not in the collection
so
plate.
if like your parents were like mine, and they walked you into church with them, then you didn't really have that ability. And like my mom didn't hand me my dollar until the plate was coming around, and then you would just take the money from her and put it at the plate. But other people, if your parents kind of just sent you on,
they would go to the candy lady,
right across the street to the candy lady.
Funniest thing Now, I didn't know my cousin was doing this, but what she said that she would do was she would have like $1 or $2 put in church. She would get her change back in the collection plate. I was like, no, hold on. You're not supposed to make change.
You're not supposed to make change.
She told me she would do that. I'm like, what?
Wow.
How much time? And I'm sorry, like if I saw somebody doing that, I don't know what I would do.
Now, I have seen people ask for change.
She was making her own change.
I think they discourage that. I have seen someone call the usher over and be like, I'm going to need you to break this.
I think that's appropriate.
I
I mean, but you might have a bill that's too large, and you know.
Well, I'm gonna need you to break your bill before you get a turn. Anyway, I've seen that, but I have never seen anybody digging through the plate, making their own change.
She might not remember that, so I'm not gonna call what cousin it was because all I know is I was flabbergasted.
Yes,
when I heard that.
But all that to say, with we all have memories of various places of like the little corner store, whatever. But as the communities are changing, those businesses aren't able to necessarily stay. So the same way affordable housing is becoming an issue, affordable commercial property is an issue, and affordable rents and all that
affordable stuff. I was watching a video the other day where somebody was talking about $4 popsicles.
Excuse me?
$4 popsicles at a place that was,
like I said, 25-cent freeze cup, lady.
Yeah, but that, I mean, you know, that was like back in the day.
It was Kool-Aid in a Dixie cup too, but you know, whatever.
Probably still Kool-Aid in a Dixie cup, but for $4,
no,
you can have this fine popsicle.
I don't even like popsicles.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know,
like if I were to have to choose
between
a treat,
but you have to choose. Like what's your selection?
Well, if somebody's like, oh, it's, you know, I would always pick ice cream over a popsicle.
Yeah,
like on a hot day. Like
it depends on what ice cream though, because I don't do sherbet or sorbet, like that kind of stuff.
To me, that's getting into popsicle land.
And it's getting into fruit with the dessert. I don't do
Which
that.
you don't like.
I don't do that.
But I just don't. I mean, like I'd maybe do a fudgesicle, but I'm like I would never. And I would probably choose, if nothing else, I would choose not to have it. Like I just don't.
So you would go without a popsicle if you just have nothing?
I would not have. I would have nothing. I would just rather have a frosty glass of water.
I'm not gonna go that far.
I just find
like
that
if everybody in this room was just eating a popsicle, and
I would not want one.
Just be like, oh well. So you just sit there with nothing.
I wouldn't want one. That's like, to me, that's like ice cream cones. Like if the only option to get ice cream to my body is through an ice cream cone, I would just rather not have ice cream. I don't like them. I think they're messy. I don't like fussing with them.
You never learned how to eat an ice cream cone.
I don't like them.
There's a technique. I'm telling you.
I'm sure there is. I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I don't like having to rush my food. I just don't. I don't like it.
There was a whole off-camera scenario of the hand motion to eat ice cream cone.
I don't care for them.
I'm telling you, like I remember getting ice cream cones at this store called Thrifty's. I grew up in California. You know, Thrifty's used to be back in the day. You could get an ice cream cone for 25 cents. You get the double scoop for 50. So it was like every scoop was 25 cents.
Oh, that's a good deal.
Yes, and so on the weekends when we would go with my grandma, we would go to Thrifty's all the time and get the ice cream. And I'm telling you, so that's why I could do ice cream cone, because I grew up on that.
I will go as far as, but see, I want my ice cream. I want it in a cup. I'm like, either I want it in a cup or you can put the cone in the cup. You're missing out on the cone.
I know, what about the waffle cone? Now, if you got a waffle cone, it was more than 25 cents.
Yeah, but I like a waffle cone. You remember how TCBY used to give you the waffle cone with the spoon?
TCBY, boy, well, you went back. Where's TCBY at these days?
There actually is one.
Where?
Not. I just saw one not that long ago. There is a TCBY. There is one in Atlanta.
I feel like I wouldn't even go there because Cold Stone has just upped the ante.
Yeah, but I just remember like the waffle cones, but they would give it to you with a spoon so you could still eat it.
Yeah,
with the spoon, and you didn't have to do the whole.
But do you even eat the cone?
Yeah, I like a cone.
Okay.
I just don't like eating my food out of a cone.
Well,
anyway,
I don't mind it.
Did we? So, everything is on Roswell Road. I should have just said it's on Roswell Road because that's apparently the only place I go.
But yeah, so if you were to go through Ace and you needed an ice cream shop to set up, you could probably get access to Capitol.
I like
create
the
your
bowl,
ice cream.
the waffle bowls.
Waffle bowl. You
I
can get
enjoy
that at
a
Cold
waffle
Stone.
bowl. I enjoy a waffle bowl because then that gives me the ability to do with the chocolate because it keeps the bowl from getting soggy. I like all those things, but yes, all that to say, I would not eat a popsicle.
Well,
unless I'm sick, because that's like the the good trick. When you're sick, you eat a popsicle, makes you feel better. But other than that, I don't care for them. Makes your throat feel better.
Yeah, if you have a sore throat, but if you're just sick in general, you just get a popsicle.
No, if I'm
okay. So I was like, how does that go together? What about the freeze pop in the plastic?
Like the push pop? Or no, the
plastic sleeve.
I don't mind those because you can they're not messy.
The thing I don't like those because
I don't
there's
like
nothing in it.
I don't necessarily like the way they taste, but I would do that
And
before
what's
that.
the point of
But
it?
I will tell you, my one concession of messy desserts were the push pops, the sherbet,
I
Flintstone
don't do
push
no
pops.
sherbet anything. That stuff tastes like yogurt.
Hands down
gross.
favorite, like little kid dessert. Like I remember in college for some reason.
And how is that not messy? Oh, you said it is messy.
It is. It's very messy, but that's
Yes.
like the one thing because I like the way it. From what I remember, I may not like the way it tastes now, but as a child, I did.
I just don't even understand why that was so cheaply made.
I don't know either. Because it was just
that little piece of plastic there, and then you
push it up, and it was terrible, and you get halfway through it, and the whole thing would disintegrate.
Yeah,
it was awful, but I liked it. That was my one concession of having like messy dessert. Other than that, I could rather not do that.
Okay. Well,
anyway, so all that to say, these are all things that you could have found at your neighborhood community store that may or may not.
Where if you grew up where we lived, if you grew up somewhere else, I don't know what you had at your place.
You had the big pickle jar.
Everybody had a
pickle jar. I don't know how long that pickle jar was there, but the pickles were good.
Yep.
And you had some sort of candy. You always
now
had
laters or mambas or the cherry, the little cherry things, or the
hot
lemon
balls,
heads,
lemon balls, the hot
balls. Atomic fireballs. That's what they're called.
I didn't eat those either. Didn't like them. My mom loved those things. I
could do them every once in a while.
I was like the kid that would just like lick it. I couldn't actually.
Mambas, now laters, blow pops.
Yes.
Fun dip.
Yeah.
Got to have the fun dip.
And then every once in a while they would have the ring nerds. Yes.
And they would have nerds.
Every once in a while you go a place to find a ring pop.
You know, I didn't like the ring pop. I didn't like the ring pop for the same reason you don't like ice. It's too messy. I don't want that sticky on my hand.
I didn't mind a ring pop.
See, you do like messy desserts.
Just those two, apparently.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome to the Good Work Show.
Yes, you're here now.
Yep.
You can't leave. So when we come back, we'll hear from our friends from
Mandarin.
Yep.
Atlanta Land Trust.
Bye.
To learn more about the show and how your company can tell their story, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @GoodWorkShow.
Audience, welcome to this week's Good Work Show. We are sitting here with Amanda Reen, who is the Executive Director of Atlanta Land Trust. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us about Atlanta Land Trust and your mission.
Sure. So we are a nonprofit organization that is working to create permanently affordable housing in the city of Atlanta with a real geographic area focused around the Atlanta Beltline.
Yeah, definitely.
Very necessary.
Lots of conversation around affordability and housing around the Beltline.
That's absolutely right. The Beltline is a wonderful project. It's transforming the city. It's providing people with an opportunity to connect. You know, it will be, it's really a wide-ranging project that will include public space, parks, trails, as well as public transportation. So it has the ability to transform the city, but it's had, I think, both positive and negative effects on communities. It's done a wonderful job of attracting new investment and jobs and development to the city. But on the other hand, it's also having this effect of increasing property values and displacing people, many longtime residents who have been in these historic communities for a long time, and they aren't able to pay that property tax bill as the values go up, or, you know, their rent increases or their landlord sells their property. And so the work that we're doing is really focused on that geography for that reason, because we want to make sure that as the Beltline is implemented across the city, all Atlantans have the opportunity to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about those details, like how many folks, and, you know, let's dig a little bit deeper and try to paint the picture for people before we get to the good work that you do, but why is it so dire and necessary?
It's really important right now at this moment in time in the city of Atlanta because so many people are moving back to the city. There's an increased demand for housing. At the same time, the wages that people are earning are not keeping up with the cost of housing. And so people are getting forced out. And so we are at the crisis point in Atlanta with affordable housing. And, you know, Mayor Bottoms has recognized that. And one of her big campaign commitments was to raise $1 billion towards affordable housing in the city of Atlanta. So she now has released a plan that outlines how she hopes to be able to do that. which includes some additional goals around creating or preserving 20,000 affordable units in the city of Atlanta, ensuring equitable development across the city and minimizing displacement, which is what we were just talking about, and really trying to foster innovation and streamlining processes at the city. So the great thing is that for the first time in a long time, there's a sense of urgency around this issue that, in my opinion, hasn't existed before. And people have really come together around the issue to try and identify solutions, try and raise funding to support the implementation of those solutions. So although we are at a really challenging point in time as it relates to affordable housing, that has created an opportunity for everybody to come together around solutions.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting the idea that people are moving back into the city, because if for a while, everybody was like, oh, I'm going to live in the burbs and I come in, but traffic gets worse and now there's fun things to do downtown. Now you have all the folks kind of coming back in that it kind of abandoned some of those neighborhoods before.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And before I started this job at the Land Trust, I was at MARTA. And that's what we were seeing at MARTA too. There was a move across the region for people to live in walkable, transit accessible places. That was really initially driven by millennials. That's what millennials wanted. But really, that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to at least have the option to walk around their neighborhood, to walk to get dinner, to walk to go to the gym, to go to the grocery store, to at least have options around mobility and how you're getting places and not be forced to have to get in a car every single place you need to go. And so for that reason, I think a lot of people are moving back into the city. And the city has, wonderfully rich, culturally diverse neighborhoods. And I think people are seeking that out too. They want a sense of authenticity and a sense of what makes Atlanta a special place. And in the suburbs, it starts to feel like you could be any place, not necessarily in Atlanta. And being in the city, there are a lot of unique things that make it special.
So tell us about a community land trust. What does that mean? 'Cause I don't know that. I think most people can understand the work that you're doing and sort of what you explained about the mission and how you plug in with Mayor Bottom's initiative. But tell us about the land trust part of it.
So community land trusts are not new. They've been around in the United States for 50 years now. And in fact, the first community land trust that was created in the U.S. was right here in Georgia, in Albany. It's created as part of the civil rights movement to give Black farmers control of their land. So community land trusts have been implemented across the country with great success in small neighborhoods, big cities, countywide. And we just have been late to the game here in Atlanta. So the Atlanta Land Trust was created in 2009 with the same mission that we have today, but to really establish an additional tool that could be used to create affordable housing around the Beltline. And the community land trust model is different than how we've approached affordable housing historically in Atlanta, because it creates affordable housing that is permanently affordable. So a lot of the housing that we're creating through public subsidy in Atlanta is affordable for 10 years or 15 years, in some cases 30 years, but there's a term. And at the end of that term, the affordability requirement goes away. So it's really not a sustainable approach to funding and developing affordable housing. The community land trust approach is that we go out and acquire land, remove it from the private market, and put it into the hands of the community. And then we do with that land whatever meets the needs of the community. So our focus at the Atlanta Land Trust is affordable housing because that's where we think the need is the greatest today. But over time, our work could evolve and we could do affordable commercial space for local businesses. We could do amenities for the community. We could do green space. We could do rental. But right now we're really focused on homeownership because that's where we see the most pressure happening, again, particularly along the Beltline. So what we do is called a dual ownership model. We go out, we acquire the land, we develop affordable housing on that land. We sell that housing to families that meet our income requirements, technically low-income families. We sell the home to them, but we retain ownership of the land. And we do that for two reasons. One, by removing land from the equation, we've reduced the cost of the home. And two, what we're trying to do is retain control of the land. And there are two important things we want to control with the land. One is the sales price of the home. So we want to ensure every single time the home is sold, it's sold for an affordable price. And the second thing we want to ensure is every single time the home is sold, that it's sold to another low-income family. So that the initial investment we're making in that home to make it affordable benefits multiple generations of family over time.
Yeah. So talk to me though about the affordability piece, because we throw that word around like everybody knows what it means, and that it's one thing. And I think that could be interpreted differently depending on who you ask. What's affordable for someone is maybe not affordable to someone else. So is there a calculation? Tell me how that sort of gets played out when you're talking about affordable housing.
So technically speaking, our federal government defines affordable housing as housing that costs less than 30% of your income. So everybody really deserves to have housing that is affordable, regardless of what your income is. So if you're spending more than 30% of your income on housing, which more than half Atlantans are, that means that you are cost burdened and that your housing is not affordable. So that's kind of the basic definition.
Now, is that your gross pay or your net pay?
It's your gross pay.
Gross pay. Okay.
But then where we,
those are two very different numbers.
Yes, they
yeah,
are.
absolutely. And I think for ease of understanding it, they use the gross numbers.
Okay.
And then every year, HUD, the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, releases what are called the area median incomes for every region across the country. And for our region in Atlanta, it's a large area. And what they establish as the median income is kind of the figure by which we determine affordability. So we will typically say housing is affordable to a percentage of whatever that area median income is. So typically we target people that are below 80% of the area median income for Atlanta. So what that means is that if you're a single person and you're at 80% of the area median income, you're earning about $45,000 a year. So that would be the cap. That would be the most that you can make to buy one of our homes. But we adjust for family size. That's where it gets complicated. And we're also really trying hard to reach deeper levels of affordability because that's where the need is greatest. And in the neighborhoods where we're spending a lot of our time working on the west side of Atlanta and in southwest Atlanta, the incomes in those neighborhoods are far below the area median income for the region.
Sometimes $2,500 in some cases.
Far below. Yes. And so it's a challenge for us that we're trying to address to get more subsidy, more funding, so that we can bring the price down so that the homes that we're creating are truly affordable to people that are already in those neighborhoods. So we truly can be an anti-displacement agent.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I think the approach is really good. So I'm so glad that and it makes sense, I guess, when you explained keeping the land, but making sure that if that family moves away, that there's still an opportunity for someone else who financially is in the same position as that family to move in and enjoy the space and keep it, and it's a place where they want to live, not just any place, but a place where along the Beltline where there's so much development happening, but so many other people want to be.
Right, and that's the key. We're really asking the families that participate in our program that get the benefit of an affordable home to pay that benefit forward to the next family. So they do have an opportunity to realize some equity and build their wealth to some extent, but what we're really offering our homeowners is stability and a pathway to traditional homeownership, if that's what they aspire to. If they want to have a market rate home where they own the land and they own the house, we can help get you there. But for a lot of people, the people we're working with are first-time home buyers, and the gap between renting and owning a market rate house in these neighborhoods in particular is so wide that they really need somebody to help them bridge that gap, and we can really be that stepping stone between being a renter and being a market rate traditional homeowner. So that's what we really are seeking to do in these communities.
Well, Amanda, we're going to take a break and come back, talk a little bit more about Atlanta Land Trust, and then maybe give our audience an opportunity to find out how to learn more and maybe support the work that you're doing. So hang with us. We're going to take a break. We're talking with Amanda Reen, who is the Executive Director of Atlanta Land Trust. Come back with us. You're listening to The Good Work Show.
To learn more about the show and how your company can tell their story, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @GoodWorkShow.
Audience, welcome back to The Good Work Show. We are chatting with Amanda Reen, who is the Executive Director of Atlanta Land Trust, learning about their work particularly along the Beltline, and how they're keeping housing affordable, making it affordable, and keeping it affordable for so many people who want to live close to the Beltline and enjoy all that it is bringing to our city. So talk to us about how the Atlanta Land Trust came to be. How did all of this start? Definitely the work around the Beltline is fairly new, because the Beltline's fairly new, but talk to us about how the idea came about and how you put it all together.
Well, the Beltline was originally created around 2005. That's when the city approved the district that was going to help fund the project. So in 2007, a group of stakeholders got together. It was a group of about 30 different people from the public sector, private sector, different affordable housing advocates, really under the leadership of the Annie Casey Foundation, Atlanta Beltline Partnership, and an organization called AHAND, which doesn't exist anymore, to try and evaluate if this tool, Community Land Trust, was going to be a good fit for Atlanta, if this was something that we needed to introduce into the community to address the affordable housing challenge. Because they knew that as the Beltline was going to be implemented across the city, that it would have this effect of increasing property values. That was really the business model for the Beltline. So they were trying to get in front of it so that they could mitigate the displacement that they were concerned was going to occur as the project got constructed. So they went through a 2-year evaluation process to really understand, what is this model, how has it worked in other cities, how could we structure it in Atlanta in a way that it would really address the issues that we're seeking to address. And so after 2 years, they made the decision to move forward with the creation of the organization. They established a board of directors and brought on an executive director to run the organization. It was structured differently initially than it is today. It was structured as a central server model, which was intended to facilitate the creation of small neighborhood-based community land trusts, and then have the Atlanta Land Trust serve as a resource for those smaller community land trusts. And it didn't work out. It was done during the recession, so I think that was a big part of the challenge, among other things. So there was about a 5-year time frame where there was no staff at the Atlanta Land Trust, and it was really being run by the board of directors, who was dedicated to the mission of the organization and really committed to figuring out how to make the model work. So they were able to put a business plan into place and raise funding through a capacity building grant from the Candida Fund to bring on full-time staff. And that was when I started, which is about 1.5 years ago. And I was really charged with relaunching the organization and trying to realize the original vision for the organization, which was to create permanently affordable housing with a focus on the Atlanta Beltline. So over the past year, we've really been working to establish all of the organizational infrastructure necessary to have a solid foundation on which we can then scale the organization. And we're going through a strategic planning process right now, which is going to inform what that roadmap looks like to get to a scale where we can really have impact on the city.
Yeah,
cool.
Right.
So if someone's out there listening and they're like, well, this sounds interesting to me, how does the process in working with the Atlanta Land Trust differ from somebody just going through a traditional lending process, aside from the fact that you may not have the funds to be able to get into one of these homes? Like, how does that process different? And then even how is the ownership part of it different as it relates to, if you were to own the house and the land and all the stuff that comes along with that?
So if somebody's interested in buying a home with the Atlanta Land Trust, the first thing that we ask them to do is to attend one of our community information sessions. So we hold those on a monthly basis. They're on Saturdays typically, and they're all listed on the event calendar on our website. It's a free event. And that's an opportunity for you to just get introduced to the Community Land Trust model. What we don't want people doing is getting too deep into the process with us without understanding how the ownership structure is different. We want to make sure that this is a good fit for folks that are going to invest their time and resources in the process. So that's really the first step. And then we will typically have them go through some training. We have one-on-one counseling with an organization called RRC, just to, again, make sure they fully understand what they're getting into, that they're comfortable with the model, and that they have their finances in order so that they can, in fact, qualify for a mortgage. And that's typically one of the next steps in the process, is to get pre-qualified for a loan. So although this ownership structure is different, you still can get a conventional mortgage to buy one of these homes, but you have to work through one of our preferred lenders who understand how to underwrite this type of mortgage. So the mortgage is secured by the home and a leasehold estate in the land rather than the fee simple interest in the land. And then the other thing we want to make sure that our homeowners understand is the ground lease. And the ground lease is the document that we enter into with them that gives them the right to be on our land, but also outlines all of the important restrictions, including who they can sell the home to and for how much. So we want to make sure they understand that document before they sign it. And that's something that they would sign at closing when they acquire the home, in addition to securing the financing for the mortgage. So it is a lengthy process, but we work with our home buyers closely to make sure that they can navigate the process and that they understand all of the steps from the beginning so that we can manage their expectations on how long it's going to take and what is required of them in order to move forward in the process.
Now, are there stipulations on what they can do with the house, like physically, like can I paint it yellow? Like, are there things around that are different than or is it kind of like going into like a condo community where you have to be like, well, you got to do this and you can't do this or whatever. So are there other stipulations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there are, and those are all set forth in the ground lease. What we really want to make sure is that our homeowners don't make an investment in their home that they are not going to benefit from.
Got it. Perfect.
So what we say generally is you can't increase the size of your home, but you can make improvements. You can paint your house. You can update the kitchen if necessary. And certainly you can handle any maintenance issues that arise. But all of our homes are either newly renovated or newly constructed. And most of them come with the typical builder's warranty. So they're all in very good condition. So we don't expect that somebody's going to want to buy one of these homes and do something with it immediately.
Well, that makes sense, especially if there's limitations to what you can sell it for, because most of the time when you're doing renovations or additions or that kind of stuff to your house, you're doing it to increase the value.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense to put those resources in where you could be socking that away for your next down payment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how's it working? So give us a sense of how many people, how many families have moved in since you've started, and are there goals that you've already reached, and maybe can give us some perspective on that?
Sure. Yeah. So we really are just getting started. We have a handful of homeowners that are in our program currently, about 8. We actually have 8 homes that are available for purchase right now. 6 of which are in the Pittsburgh neighborhood, and 1 is in the Washington Park neighborhood, and 1 is in the Mosley Park neighborhood. Beautiful homes. There's information on those properties on our website as well. And then we have about 60 additional units in our pipeline right now where there's a solid commitment in place to deliver those homes into the land trust. And then we're having a lot of other conversations about identifying additional partnerships, funding sources that will contribute additional units into the land trust. So we feel like we have good momentum. At this point, we are, as I mentioned, going through a strategic planning process. And so that really will identify what our specific goal is around the number of units we want to have over the next 3 to 5 years, and then what the pathway is in order to achieve that. So I don't have a specific number to share at this point, but we will have finalized that within the next couple of months.
Okay. And all single family homes, or is there multi-unit living in sort of in the plan, or maybe in the strategic plan, maybe even?
Yes, it is in the strategic plan. We are primarily focused on single family at this point because that's where we are. We're in single family neighborhoods around the Beltline, many of which are historic. And so we want to make sure that what we're building in those neighborhoods is a good fit with the existing housing typology. But we also are trying to add in some additional higher density developments, including townhomes and condos. We have a project we're developing in the Oakland City neighborhood that will include a mix of condominium units and townhomes ranging from 1 bedroom to 3 bedroom. So we do want to try and provide people with options. But for the most part, what we're doing is single family.
Yeah. Great.
Cool. So how do people find out more? So at this point, I know that there might be people in this room that are like, this sounds good. How do I learn more, and what do I need to know?
Great. So definitely visit our website. That's a great resource, atlantalandtrust.org. On our website, you can sign up to be on our distribution list. So you'll get ongoing updated information about events that we have, new listings that we have. But if somebody's really serious about learning more, I would suggest they come to a community information session. We just had one this weekend that was our February session, so we'll also have one scheduled in March that will be held at the Southeast Library on Pryor Road. So go on our website, look at the events calendar, and register for that event. Again, it's free. That's a good way to learn a little bit more about the program as well. So I would suggest taking those steps if somebody's interested in learning more, and somebody can always reach out to me or my colleague to have a meeting to learn more as well.
Fantastic. So we know the strategic plan is next. What else is next for Atlanta Land Trust? What should we be looking for in following your work?
So the biggest thing that we're working on is the project I mentioned in Oakland City. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to break ground on that project this year. Okay. And it's going to be modularly constructed, which means it's going to be built in a factory and then brought to the site. Yes. So if we are able to start construction this year, then it will go very quickly and hopefully be complete this year also. So that's a really big thing that we're working on right now. And then hopefully just start closing on some additional homes and getting a little bit more momentum.
Yeah, fantastic.
So if there's folks out there that want to support your efforts, and they're like, I got a house, I got land, I got stuff, is that something too that you would be interested in?
Absolutely. We're very interested in land donations. There's a tax benefit for you to donate land to the Atlanta Land Trust because we are a 501c3. So we would love that. If somebody wants to just make a cash contribution to the Atlanta Land Trust, we would
always
love
take
to have that
also.
Or if you're just interested in getting involved. But to be honest with you, just raising awareness about our organization and the community land trust model is really helpful too. So people could educate themselves by going to our website, watching our videos, reading our materials, or attend an information session. That would be incredibly valuable.
Well, fantastic. Well, and you also have the benefit of the Good Work Show, so you can play this podcast or share this podcast,
right?
Or share the YouTube video, even better. But Amanda, thank you so much for stopping by, educating us on the work that you're doing, particularly around affordable housing. It is something that ties very well in with our mission at Goodwill, which is workforce development and putting people to work. So all of those things tie together, but definitely needed in Atlanta. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
You're listening to The Good Work Show.
To learn more about the show and how your company can tell their story, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @GoodWorkShow.
Audience, welcome back to The Good Work Show. We are excited to be sitting here with Martina Edwards, and she is the Chief of Strategic Partnerships for Access to Capital for Entrepreneurs. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Elaine. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I feel like your organization has partnered with Goodwill. Have you? I feel like we have, maybe, with our Good Biz program. I don't know.
It's possible. We've been around for 20 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of partnerships over that time.
Well, fantastic. So first of all, ACE, right? Can we call it ACE?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. So ACE is a nonprofit, but tell us about what the nonprofit's all about. Tell us about ACE, what you do, who you help, and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So ACE is Access to Capital for Entrepreneurs. We call it ACE for short, and we are a nonprofit organization that is a mission-based lender. What that means is we really have a focus on providing loan capital as well as business development resources to underserved people and places. And we do that through provide loan capital anywhere from $15,000 up to $1 million, which is a great leap from where we started.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
fantastic.
So talk to us a little bit about why getting a loan from ACE is different than getting it from a traditional source.
Sure. Because of our focus and our target market being low to moderate income women and people of color in particular, sometimes there are individuals who go to a traditional institution for loans and they're not able to get it. So ACE, we have different lending parameters. We start out with a 600 credit score versus at a bank where you may need 750 or something like that. And there are different studies that show that there is a higher declination rate among African Americans and Latinx communities. And oftentimes when you do get approved for a loan, it may be at a higher interest rate or a lower amount. So we come in and we're a critical part of that financial ecosystem, providing a bridge for those who are oftentimes just overlooked.
Yeah. So I like to think like Atlanta is a city for a rich nonprofit community, but also lots of entrepreneurs. There's everybody who's had some kind of business, side business, or wanting it to be their full-time business, but they're doing it on the side. So how does ACE help Atlanta's entrepreneur population or our community of entrepreneurs here?
Sure. Well, for the last 20 years, we have actually lent $72 million in loan capital. So we started out as a small organization. Our Grace Fricks, our CEO and visionary, started this organization back in 2000 with a $50,000 grant and a dream, just like most entrepreneurs. So we've been there. We understand the ecosystem, the thought process of an entrepreneur, what they're going through. And because we've gone from being a micro lender where we were providing loans up to $5,000 in just 4 counties, And now we touch 68 counties across the state of Georgia. That's one of the things that we do. We have great credibility, great track record, and deep reach in terms of impact.
$72 million. Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Wells Fargo Foundation is going to give you a little bit more. So talk to us a little bit about that partnership and how it will allow you to do more in the community.
Absolutely. We are so excited about our relationship. We have a long-term partnership with Wells Fargo and many funders. Wells Fargo decided to make an investment in ACE, a $2.8 million grant, the largest one in our history. And that is going to enable us to continue to provide more loan capital out there. It's a 3-year grant over the next 3 years, but it's also supporting us doing more training and development for women entrepreneurs as well as diverse entrepreneurs. We have something called a high performance growth program, which focuses on women who have started businesses, and we saw that they were increasing their revenue. So now they have $500,000 in revenue, and we said, how can we help them to develop the muscle and grow as they scale? So it's going to help us to sharpen some things around that program, but also launch a program with Morehouse Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center. And that program is one that's focusing on small to mid-sized businesses, really structured existing legacy businesses, helping them who are poised to scale. So we're trying to figure out how can we accelerate growth. And that will be more of an incubator style where you go in and you have cohorts over the next couple of years.
That's fantastic. And I think that's such an important thing because we do hear about businesses that are like, well, I can do more, but I need the revenue in order to produce more of whatever, or to get that more inventory, or invest in technology in order to grow, because what I'm doing is good, but I could just do more of it, but looking for those assets to be able to do it.
Absolutely, and a part of that, we call it our M's. There's money, there's management education, and there's access to markets. When I say access to markets, that's really how do you, once you've started your business, get your foot in the door, maybe to get on a diversity supplier program with larger corporations, and that's when you really will see some growth in your business. But also the money piece is the capital component. But we know that many businesses will say the reasons why they will fail, almost 50% say that the reason why they fail in the first couple of years is because of capital. But we have learned from our small business entrepreneurs and clients that they also really are seeking that additional support around business development. So we have a women's business center that sits in Norcross, Georgia, that really supports anyone who walks through the door that has an idea. We help them figure out going from idea, how do you go from that to actually actualizing your vision, or those who have a business already and they're trying to figure out how do I expand and grow. So as an example, we have something called Dream Builder. You can go to aceloans.org and click on Women's Business Center, and there's a drop-down. It's Dream Builder, and it's a 12-step module program, no cost to anyone who wants to use it. And it helps you think about, do you have the right mindset to be an entrepreneur? Step one.
I'm like,
exactly. Your customer base, your pricing, have you thought about what your inputs are so that you have the right price for whatever service or sales that you're providing? Do you understand the competitive landscape? Have you done your market research? So it's really thorough. I encourage anyone who is listening and thinking about starting a business to go on and check it out.
Cool. So tell us about, because so ACE is a community development financial institution. So
yes.
So tell us about why the work of CFDIs are so important to, to not only just to the entrepreneurship community, but to Atlanta and to the, sort of economic mobility. We hear that all the time. Talk to us about the importance of having these types of institutions here in our state.
Absolutely. The statistics will show that Atlanta is 50th for income and mobility, economic mobility. And so we know that there's clearly still a lot of issues that we're dealing with that are creating some gaps when we talk about wealth. CDFIs, Community Development Finance Institutions, I always say we lead with community. They were developed in the late 60s, part of the Johnson administration, and it was a war on poverty, but also a way to combat racial discrimination that was happening with lending practices that we often call redlining. And that really created decades of inequity in our system because not only communities, but people were discriminated against. So you weren't able to achieve the American dream and get wealth the way others were, building it through assets. And so now what we're here to try to mitigate that and be a solution to create more equity in the system, because we know that when you provide someone with capital to start a business, it is a pathway to wealth.
Yeah.
And it will not only impact that individual, but collectively it's going to impact their family. It's going to impact the family of the community, of the employees that they were able to hire and provide salaries to, as well as the larger community. So it is a ripple effect. And we are really excited that we are a part of that overall collective kind of change and push forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of times when you hear about redlining, people think about it as it relates to mortgages,
Mm-hmm.
and and people not being able to get mortgages to have houses, because we all know that real estate is a way to build wealth, and having that generational ownership of wealth and property and that kind of stuff, but not really thinking about it in the sense of businesses. And as communities have changed, where it used to that you would have like a smaller insular community and everybody would go to that corner store or that funeral home or that whatever, that as communities have changed, that has also become more difficult for these businesses to maintain and sustain themselves, because you don't necessarily have that generation of community that's around you as well.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's with everything, gentrification and different things that take place. Some people are pushed out of the community. They can no longer afford rents if they are leasing. I think ownership is also very important. So one of the things that ACE has been able to do, a great example of one of our clients, Ardina Pierre, she has a business called Nature's Own down in Hapeville, Georgia. And she was a nurse by trade, a licensed nutritionist, and she wanted to see a healthier community. So she actually came to ACE for the funding to start a natural health store, because she had been declined several times at traditional institutions. And so she'll tell you, but for the grace of ACE, she would not have achieved her dream. Not only were we able to help her get her first loan for that business, to add a juice bar, but then 3 years later and 3 ACE loans later, she actually owns the entire strip mall. So we're talking about asset building. And now being an example for someone in your community, and now I can hire folks in the community. I mean, it is a multiplier effect for sure. So that's a wonderful example of a client that we've been able to help and serve.
Yeah, that's great. So we've got a couple of minutes left. You definitely told us about one story. Can you tell us about another, maybe just, again, I think the example of the work that you're doing and where the $72 million over the years went is super important to understanding how important your organization is and others like yours that are really going to help the community.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of just the work that we're doing and how this grant in particular is going to allow us to continue to create more Ardina Pierres, to continue to say yes to individuals who've traditionally heard the word no, is very exciting. And really 3 years from now, we'll come back here, right? And we'll say, or sooner, and say that in 2022, we will have lent over $100 million.
Fantastic.
Right? And so that is what the grant is enabling us to be able to do. And like I said, I'm really excited about it. The work, the business development resources that we do is really critical. And we often say our secret sauce is capital coaching and connections.
Fantastic. So we've got about a minute left for folks who are listening and they want to know how they can get connected with you, either to learn more, maybe help the organization if they have, $2 million, they can give $2 million, match Wells Fargo, right? But how do they get in touch with you and learn more?
Sure. So you can go to our website, aceloans.org, or you can send us an email at info@aceloans.org. And if there is anyone that's out there that's a funder or a donor, we have a diverse group of lenders, and from banks to government agencies and foundations. So if you're looking to provide lending capital, low interest patient lending capital, or grants to us to continue to facilitate that business development work, then please connect with us. We're looking forward to working with you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for stopping by, Martina. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. This is an awesome show.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. You're listening to The Good Work Show.
To learn more about the show and how your company can tell their story, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @Good Work Show.